Hi guys, I am not able to be here today because I have technology training and I've heard mixed reports from people. Some people have said that, Some people have said that you are listening to the video and some people have said that you're not. So for those of you who are not, today is really important. And if you don't listen to this video, you're not going to be able to understand the material as well as I want you to understand it. And it's really important. Remember, ecology is really important. So get off your phones. Listen. Okay? Now, basically, the sub already gave you the notes and you already wrote down what you need to write down, except for a few things. And I'm just going to talk about some of the blanks in there. So first of all, everyone should be on page 8 of their notes. Autotrophs and heterotrophs. So autotrophs produce their own energy, usually through the sun. Heterotrophs need to consume. You guys know that. Every ecosystem on Earth must have autotrophs and heterotrophs. Why? I want you guys to try to answer that on your own. Okay? Next one, relationships between organisms. I have the notes in front of me, see? Relationships between organisms. You shouldn't have too much trouble coming up with a competitive relationship and with a feeding relationship. So make sure you have those. Symbiotic relationships are mutualism, parasitism, commensalism. The difference between, and people always ask, the difference between parasitism and predator-prey is that parasitism, because it's symbiotic, is permanent. So that means that one of them doesn't die. In predator-prey, one does die. Okay. So on to page 9. Competitive relationships. You guys know what a niche is. Organisms often compete for different niches and habitats. A niche describes the way an organism gets what it needs to survive and when it does it. So like nocturnal versus diurnal, which is being awake during the night versus being awake during the day. And then 11, what is the natural habitat for the blue whale? The ocean. 12, describe the niche for a gray squirrel. So how does it get what it needs to survive? And when does it do that? Diurnal or nocturnal? 13, competitive exclusion principle. It's really important. You guys are going to watch a video on that. And once you watch that video, you can go ahead and answer 14 and 15. 15 is just opinion. There is no wrong answer unless you write, potato or something. Don't write potato. Number 10, feeding relationships. And you guys know these pretty well. You should. Predator-prey relationships are common in all ecosystems. And then we talk about carnivores versus herbivores. And, of course, there's also omnivores. But there are also omnivores, but that's not on there. But you know what it is. Producers versus consumers. And then you have your primary consumers, which consume producers, and your secondary consumers, which consume primary consumers. Listed down there. Don't forget to read all that fine print right there. And then decomposers are organisms within an ecosystem that consume dead plants and animals. And they return the nutrients to the soil. Sorry about that typo right there. So make sure that you know that decomposers are what takes the energy and returns it to a usable form into the soil. Without decomposers, there would just be dead bodies laying around. So make sure you really understand this picture right here. It's very important. Our energy comes from the sun, right? So it goes from the sun to a producer, which is something that takes energy from the sun and turns it into a usable form like glucose. And then producers get eaten by herbivores or primary consumers, because herbivores are primary consumers. And then Once the bunny rabbit dies, its body decays and the decomposers take care of it. And same thing for the primary producers over here. They decompose and the decomposers take care of it. Another thing is energy is lost as heat because animals that have to stay warm have to use energy to make themselves warm and also to, complete metabolic activities like digesting things. So that's really important right there. Energy is lost as heat. Okay? So types of consumers, 18. Draw a food chain containing a producer, a primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. You can do it. 19. Why do tertiary consumers need to consume the most food and biomass? So I put in there, and you should have written down. Energy is lost as heat in their prey and their prey's prey. Because if you look at the pyramid here, triangle, here are your producers, right? The decomposers are always at the bottom. And then you have whatever eats the producers up a level, and these things have to keep warm. So at this point, you're going to start losing energy through heat or through metabolic activities. You're still losing energy through metabolic activities here, just not heat because they don't heat themselves up. Plants don't. And then as you go up, you just lose more and more energy through maintaining body heat, okay, and metabolic activities. 20, why are squirrels shown as primary consumers? 21, name 2 decomposers in this pyramid. I should have that. And then food web, just remember that whatever it's pointing at, whatever the arrow is pointing at is what it eats or what eats it. So just pretend that it's afraid and that it's pointing at something and it's like, ah, shut up. Okay. So the bird right here is pointing at the fox because the fox eats it. The rabbit is pointing at the fox because the fox eats it. Okay. The carrot is pointing at the rabbit because the rabbit eats it. And then at 25, I had you guys write down, name 1 secondary consumer, and I put down 3 examples that you could have: fox, owl, or bird. And then for bird, I pointed out the bird is not just a secondary consumer, it's also a primary consumer because it eats grains, so it eats a producer, but it also eats a primary consumer right there. Okay? All right. And then I think tomorrow we will discuss keystone species and endangered and invasive species. Please make sure that you have these notes. I hope you listened to the sub. I hope you wrote them down. Again, I'm not making these videos for fun. Let me know if you have any questions. You can message me on the Remind app. Goodbye.